Welcome back to the third part of this series. This time, we're ranking Zelda towns from 50th to 41st. We're starting to get to towns I actually really like, so this list should only get more interesting as time goes on. As always, you can check out the channel or the video description to start from the beginning, and eventually I'll release the whole list as one big video. Let's dive in. Kicking off the top 50, it's Papuccia Village, Spirit Tracks. Honestly, there's not a lot to say about this town, but it's nice enough. Apparently, Zelda summered here once when she was younger, so if that's not a recommendation, I don't know what is. The Locomo Guardian Carbon lives here, along with a desperate woman seeking a new husband, a girl who gives you treasure if you tell her she's cute, and a fortune-telling matriarch called the Wise One. It would appear that most of the residents here are named after sushi, which is on theme because this town is all about fish. It's a fishing village, and fish is the resource that you can deliver from this town to other towns by train. You might notice that all the residents of Papuccia are women. That is because the men in town have all been kidnapped by pirates, and later on Link can rescue at least one of them from the pirates' fortress. The major downside of Papuccia, like most towns in Spirit Tracks, is that it's quite literally a roadside stop. You won't spend too much time getting to know any towns in Spirit Tracks, but this one is pretty well executed. Number 49. Sunken City, Oracle of Seasons. I have questions about this place, like does it have a name? Is everyone just calling it Sunken City because it flooded, or is that its actual name? Does that mean it's always flooded? Who knows? Sunken City is actually a really good little place. The fact that it's flooded makes it both visually and narratively more interesting than a lot of 2D towns, and it ties into the game's theme, as the Rod of Seasons allows Link to freeze over the excess water and navigate the icy streets. Sunken City contains Ingo, the rare vase collector, and the Master Diver, who hands out the flippers if Link can pass his diving test. Best of all, Sunken City is home to the Witch's Hut, which is operated by Syrup and Maple, her accident-prone apprentice. One of the weirdest things that happens here is the inauspicious retirement of the Great Moblin. After Link destroys the Moblin Keep, the Great Moblin and two of his minions settle down to the quiet life here, but actually engage in some homemade bomb-making activity that would no doubt land them on a terrorist watch list. However, Link can quite literally blow up their spot, in which case the Moblin house becomes a smoldering wreck in the corner of town. Number 48. Castletown, Spirit Tracks. There are many versions of Hyrule Castletown in the series, and most, if not all, are central hub towns, the kind of towns that you return to again and again, and that evolve dynamically over the course of the game. But compared to every other version of Castletown, the Spirit Tracks version is definitely lacking. I think it's the biggest town in Spirit Tracks, but I think that kind of highlights how unimpressive the towns in this game are. There's only one left, so Spirit Tracks is quickly fading from this list. Castletown looks cool, it has a shop and a minigame, and it's the gateway to Hyrule Castle, but it just doesn't have a lot of personality or heart. I have a similar criticism for some of the better towns on this list, but I put Castletown in the category of towns that are technically well executed, but lack an emotional core. I do like that Castletown is home to the Spirit Tracks postman, who passive-aggressively snarks about one of the Phantom Hourglass complaints. It's also the first town you visit in the game, which I suppose is a big deal for an up-and-coming train engineer. At number 47, it's Melida Island, Phantom Hourglass. Melida Island is what I'd call a plot town, a place Link visits in order to solve a plot problem. In this case, that problem is a mysterious fog preventing his pursuit of the ghost ship. Rumor is, someone on Melida might know how to navigate the treacherous Northwestern Sea, so Link and Linebeck visit in search of a new chart. Speaking of cartography, Melida Island is apparently named after the Malvida projection, which is an elliptical map that represents land areas proportionally rather than according to top-down geography. That's kinda neat. The main characters of Melida Island are a small family consisting of the Wayfarer, who was the first to successfully navigate the fog, his wife, and his son Romanos. The Wayfarer never returned from his last voyage, but he left behind a bunch of monuments and very cryptic clues designed to inspire his apathetic son. This strategy was completely ineffective, because Romanos never solved any of them and considers his father a certified member of the Bad Dads Club. It's all good though, because Link does a much better job inspiring Romanos, and later in the game he taps into his entrepreneurial spirit and opens an archery minigame. Glad to see he's doing well. At number 46, it's Deku Palace, Majora's Mask. This place gets our third music award, because this jaunty Imperial beat is an earworm and a half. The Deku Scrubs are longtime denizens of the Zeldaverse, but this is the first time they've appeared as friendly NPCs. Well, sorta. The Scrubs are extremely hostile towards outsiders, and big fans of public executions. If Link dons the Deku mask, he can visit the throne room, where an innocent monkey is sitting on death row for the alleged kidnapping of the Deku princess. Like Melida Island, the Deku Palace is a plot town. There's a particular problem here, and it's Link's job to solve the problem before moving on. In this case, he solves the problem by rescuing the Deku princess, allowing her to prove once and for all that she was not kidnapped by her monkey boyfriend. As a town, the Deku Palace is small and doesn't provide many reasons to return, but it does feature Versailles-esque gardens, stealth sections, and an underground market home to the magic bean seller. Perhaps the most poignant and memorable part of the Deku Palace is Link's interaction with the Deku Butler. The Deku Butler is mourning the death of his son, who is strongly implied to be the Deku Scrub that Link transforms into. After engaging in a difficult race with the Deku Butler, the grieving father reflects that Link reminds him of his lost son. It's the kind of detail that makes Majora's Mask's towns just that much more memorable. Number 45. Gerudo Fortress, Ocarina of Time. Not only is this one of the best town themes, it's quite possibly the most fire track from any Zelda game. It has metal covers, piano covers, orchestral covers, a cappella covers. It's one of the most loved songs in the series, and a no-brainer for the 4th Music Award. From the moment you roll into town on Epona and get smacked in the face with that flamenco guitar riff, it was clear that this was someplace special. It's also time for another history icon, because this is the first ever appearance of the Gerudo. Ganondorf's all-female tribe was mentioned before this, but this is their first appearance in the series, and therefore a milestone of Zelda world building. The main plot of Gerudo Fortress is that a nearby band of horny carpenters snuck into town, both to escape their demanding boss and to shoot their shot with the desert ladies. This went as badly as you'd expect, and the hapless carpenters were thrown in Gerudo dungeons. At the behest of their hot-tempered foreman, Link heads off to rescue the layabouts, which means your first visit is a pretty intense stealth section, where being spotted results in having to escape from a dungeon yourself. This also makes Gerudo Fortress one of the very few towns whose residents can be attacked by Link. If that were all there were to Gerudo Fortress, I wouldn't have put it on the list, because even though it would be a town from the perspective of the Gerudo, it would not be a town from the player's perspective. For the same reason, you won't see the Pirate's Fortress from Majora's Mask on this list. However, after rescuing all 4 carpenters, Link earns the Gerudo's respect and is henceforth able to wander freely around town. The dialogue here isn't too exciting, but the 2 main attractions are the horseback archery range and the Gerudo training ground, an optional dungeon that houses the ice arrows. Both are top-tier minigames and provide the only real reasons to return. Number 44. Isle of Frost, Phantom Hourglass. This place combines 2 things I love, an ice town and a logic puzzle. It's populated by the Inuki, who are puffy-coated Eskimo guys with rosy cheeks and Santa beards and reindeer antlers. I always like when the series introduces a new race, especially when they're like a fun amalgamation of Christmas tropes. The Inuki's main concern is a rivalry with their neighboring tribe, the Yuk. The Yuk are club-wielding Yeti guys, and the Inuki think they're all disgusting tricksters. The Inuki chief explains that 100 years ago the 2 tribes signed a peace agreement, but now one of the Yuk has infiltrated the Inuki estates, and he wants Link to track him down. It's one of those logic puzzles where the 5 Inuki are telling the truth and the one Yuk is lying, so Link must interrogate residents, cross-check their stories, and bust the imposter. The whole time I'm thinking, this is going to be a case of not so different after all. Like maybe we would visit the other side of the island and learn that the Yuk are equally fearful and suspicious of the Inuki, and maybe we would even end up uniting the 2 tribes. I'm trope savvy, I know where this is headed. But nope, that is not what happens. After you discover the imposter, you head to the east side, and with the Inuki's blessing, murder every last Yuk you can find. Basically, these cute Christmas puffballs are suborning the ethno-slaughter of a neighboring population whose name even sounds vaguely like a racial slur. Uncomfortable. Number 43. Kakariko Village, Four Swords Adventures. There are 6 iterations of Kakariko Village across the Zelda series, making it the most recurring named town, and the second most recurring location behind Goron settlements. This is probably not actually my least favorite version of the Sheikah Village, but I can acknowledge that it's objectively the worst. It was fun to see the famous Zelda town appear in FSA, but like all the towns in the game, it's more of a level than a proper town experience. This Kakariko Village is both on fire and infested with thieves. It's not the first time that Kakariko Village has caught fire, nor the first time it showed a connection to thievery, so it's not hard to guess the inspiration behind those ideas. It's one of the most refreshing stages in Four Swords Adventures, because unlike Gerudo Village and Zuna Village, Kakariko Village is the whole stage. It's far less linear than most of the other stages and involves more thinking and more dialogue than most. There's a bunch of fun puzzles here, and it's very amusing to wrangle thieves and literally toss them in the slammer. However, it's got nothing on the best town in this game, which we'll be seeing later in the list. Moving on. Number 42, Animal Village, Link's Awakening. Tell me in the comments which of these you think happened. Did Nintendo intentionally add a bunch of wacky game elements to Link's Awakening in order to hint that the game world is all a dream? Or did they just make a really trippy game and then someone suggested they should probably justify it by adding the dream twist? Either way, one of those wacky elements is a village populated entirely by animals. It is cute, it is charming, and it is probably ranked too high simply because I like the concept of an animal village. It's home to an artistic alligator, a bear chef, and a flirtatious goat named Christine who catfishes her romantic pen pal. The game's trading sequence is threaded through this town, and everyone here wants something that someone else has. The residents of Animal Village are also super fans of Marin's singing voice, and halfway through the game, Link can escort her here to perform an open-air concert. It's a memorable destination, especially being from the first handheld game, and one of the silliest entries on the list. Number 41. Goron Village, Majora's Mask. Once again, the Gorons have been hit with a blizzard and forced to retreat into their central shrine. What you'll notice immediately about this place are the shrill cries splitting the air. If you like sitting next to babies on airplanes, this is the town for you. The source of the crying is a child upset about his father leaving to deal with the weather. It's driving all the Gorons nuts, so Link has to head off into the snow and find the Goron Elder, who seemingly does freeze to death if Link doesn't intervene. One of the most fun things about towns in Majora's Mask is that Link has multiple ways to interact with residents. He can interact as himself, or transform into the same race as the residents and act as an insider. Depending on the form you take, you can encounter indifference, reverence, hostility, trust, or suspicion. In this case, Link's Goron form is a celebrated hero, and has a personal relationship with the Goron Elder's son. After learning the Goron lullaby from the Elder, or at least the part he can remember, the son fills in the gaps and finally settles down for a nap. After spring finally arrives, there's a few more parts to explore here, like a big Goron who sells powder kegs, and a racetrack where Gorons prove their skills at rolling. Total side note, I probably played this game 10 times before I ever entered this door. Did not know it existed until very recently, but it contains an overpriced shop and a wall of assorted gemstones. Cool. Thanks for watching part 3. Drop your top 10 predictions in the comments, or let me know what you think about the towns in this video. Should they have been higher? There's so many good ones left, but the competition is heating up. I do have other videos in the works that should be released soon, so if you like this kind of content, subscribe and come back for more. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.